I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but it sounds crazy. Oh, it is crazy then. Yeah, I've seen the Eric Andre show before. I guess I missed that part. That's what. No, you're good. I'm still doing stream shit. I decided that I was gonna change up a whole bunch of stuff that I was doing for this, and it's never a good idea. It's always like, oh, I have enough time. I can change whatever the fuck I want to change, right? There's never enough time. Never fucking fails. Not as much as I used to, just because I don't do as much live content as I used to do, so there wasn't ever really a need for me to, or there hasn't been a need for me to plan as far ahead lately, but I definitely should be planning further ahead. Like, this whole thing was more of like a, well, I kind of need to put a show out before Christmas, so he had brought up bringing you on before this, but it was kind of like in passing. He was like, hey man, maybe Derek would be interested in coming back on, and I was like, oh, that actually sounds like a pretty cool idea. Yes, it was a long time ago. Almost came true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about all that nonsense. Hope I pray not. Yeah, seriously, Jesus. Yeah, he. That's my favorite shit, honestly, when I can passively consume. Yeah, I listen to a lot of shit while I work.
update outside of active hours. Okay, cool.
What is up, guys? How's it going?
Oh, fan friggin' tastic.
All right.
Doing good.
So, it is a pleasure to have you both here. For those of you who are live, hello. We will start the show in like 2 seconds. I just wanted to make sure everything was good. One last check. Sorry if the chat boxes look all screwed up. I was going to use a program that like unified all the chats together into one to make my life easy, and it didn't work. So this was a last minute solution. Lyle, a couple of other you and YouTube are here. It's great seeing you guys. I know we haven't done a live show in forever. Thanks for coming out, though. I really appreciate it. And you know what? We'll just leave that. Oh, it's Tim. Hello, Tim. It has been a minute, brother. Okay, so Brian, this will be your second time back, but this is the first time you'll be on YouTube's and everything. Last time we were just streaming to Float. So why don't you go ahead, say your hellos. It's
Hello,
everybody again.
everybody. Thank you for joining us. Should be a good show.
And nextly, we have from the highly acclaimed Young Bucks series of episodes, the venerable Derek. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Doing
Good.
well. Good to be with you.
So why don't you catch everybody up on what's been happening with you since the last time you were on? Any exciting adventures in the land of Derek?
Nothing too crazy. Rona's kind of made it a long but short year, so haven't been doing too much. Just started a new job recently, but
No, that is fair. I completely understand 100%. I am in pretty much the exact same boat. So I totally get it. Yeah. So now that we're all here, why don't we go ahead and say what we're drinking tonight? We'll go in the same order, you two, and then I'll do mine.
oh boy.
All right, we got the virus, and I got the premiere.
There we go. The
Got
premiere.
that Corona,
virus.
baby.
You got the gansets.
Nice. I went much cheaper, significantly less classy, and we're doing the big ol' Bud Light here. So
That's been your thing lately, huh? The tall boys.
yeah, low calories, and it's the first thing when I go into the gas station. It's like literally like 10 feet from the door. So I just grab 2 of these and pull them out, and good to go. But this is like the big uns. This ain't just like the tall boy, or maybe it is technically. I don't remember how many ounce qualifies as a tall boy.
16 or something. What is the ganset actually?
It's a big one. If I hit someone just hard enough with it, I could do some damage. Like it's as big as my head. Like it's not small.
I can do that.
Yeah. All right.
Opposite of the pee-pee.
Yeah, you guys have already started. I'm just now going. Okay. So, Derek, I asked you to come on here to come and give basically a recap of 2016 to 2020, mostly highlights. We're not going to go through every big news story. We'd be here all week, but just kind of looking at the political landscape of 2016 to 2020 and now moving forward into the Biden-Kamala presidency, maybe. Question mark? We'll see. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. That's more of like a fun topic, kind of wrapping all this up than it is a serious one. But I mean, it is pertinent. It is in the news cycle, so I figure we might as well talk about it. But why don't we start again? We'll start with you, Brian. If you had to explain to somebody what changed from 2016 to 2020 in America, what would you say? How would you vocalize that?
As far as the political landscape?
Yeah, like how did we go from a Trump 2016 to a Biden 2020? What made that happen?
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of factors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I feel like that's kind of two different questions as far as what's changed and what led to Biden being elected. I guess they're intertwined in ways, but different in others. First, with the change, I would say what's changed is just the political landscape, especially on the Republican side, is that it's essentially Trump is now the gatekeeper of the Republicans, and basically the only way to get it is to pay your shillings to King Trump and get through, or let him get elected once more and hopefully he leaves it alone. Um, on the Democratic side, I think a lot of people see it as fed up against Trump and wanting just any Democrat to get in there, and that Biden was the one who was chosen by the DNC, mostly because he's gonna keep the status quo going and keep the rich people happy, yada yada. Probably gonna war hawk. Um, but I think the big thing is people want to return to not seeing the president say exclamatory things every week. I think
Mm.
people want a president that just keeps his mouth shut and we just keep on flowing like we're in America. Most of us aren't starving. Like we just don't want to be outraged every week, you know? We want the river to be calm. I think that's what a lot of people want, you know?
Yeah, no, I could totally see that. I definitely could. I agree with a lot of what you said, actually. But let's go ahead and pass the torch over to you, Derek. I'm kind of curious
Sure.
what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I definitely agree with quite a bit of what Brian said there. I think really in 2016, we were still at a point where like populism was on the rise, like anti-PC sentiment was on the rise, that kind of thing. The culture war, the flames of that have been going well since the 90s into the 2000s, 2010s. And I think the age of social media has only, been a multiplying force for that. And that's definitely the era we're kind of still living in now. But then again, kind of like Clancy was saying, I think what the 2020 election came down to was what people were like tired of and what they were looking for. And like you said, like Trump constantly like raise the temperature on any issue he wanted to, and that's just kind of, I think, his mo was to be offensive, and people got sick of it after a while with the gas and just the controversy after controversy. And then I will say though, I think he was on a path to re-election until probably spring, when COVID really hit hard, and I feel like people didn't on either side feel good about the way the government handled any of it. And we're still kind of in a shitty situation despite the vaccine coming out now. But I think the economy Trump had in the spring probably would have carried him to re-election without everything that went wrong. And all Biden really had to do was just not say anything too stupid and form a coherent sentence, which he pulled it off. So
I mean, he barely did that, but yeah, for sure.
he got there. But that's literally all it took was like, and it kind of was like 2016 in the sense like you weren't voting for something, you were voting against something, and that can be a motivating factor for a lot of people. And I think in this case, like people were just exhausted with the news cycle and everything, like you said.
Yeah. Okay. So just to kind of like put all that in a little bundle in like 10 words or less, you think a lot of it had to do with anti-Trump sentiment, mostly with like the changing of the landscape.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly,
Okay.
because I don't think Biden would have had enough of a unifying message without that.
You know what? I'll do you 6 better. I'll do 4 words. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Trump, bad. Biden, different.
Orange
Okay.
man, bad. Sleepy Joe, sad.
When he doesn't get to sniff.
Yeah, they're serious. Yeah. So
boy.
I feel like I feel like I should put my cards on the table because we haven't talked in a while, and since then I think I've when the last time we talked I was like a constitutionalist, minarchist, like very far right. Like I would have supported a Republican candidate over a Democratic. I consider myself politically interested but apolitical at this point. I don't really align with either party. I'm not a libertarian either. Not at all, but I have my own personal philosophies and everything. So I felt like that's pertinent so that all the cards are laid out so that, I'm not going to be like playing ball for either team this time, which is one thing I look back on the episode we did last time and I felt like I was I felt like I was playing for a team when I listened to it, so I wanted
Yeah.
to make that clear. Like,
I
I
probably
really
do that too, and
Yeah.
I can't. I feel like I've drifted that way as well, where it's like I sympathize with a lot of factions politically, but also like I'm not willing to die on certain hills. You know,
Yeah.
like I'll just that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so yeah, I just wanted to air that out. But one thing, one thing you guys both brought up that I think is important that we can let's just talk about it and get it out of the way, kind of thing. Coronavirus, right? So, do you guys think what exactly about the coronavirus do you guys think was the push towards Biden? Because you both kind of mentioned that as factors that could mitigate Trump's supporting base. And so I'm curious, do you think it's the government response or do you think it would have happened regardless? Like, because there's a certain idea that no matter who's in charge, this was pretty much going to happen to some level, right? And does the magnitude by which it happened modify that? Is I guess what I'm getting at. So what are your thoughts on that? We can start
Do you
either
want to
one.
go first, Eric, or do you want me?
I'll go.
Alright.
I think the reason it hurt Trump so much, like to some extent, there was an inevitability. Like it was going to harm the economy. It's harming economies all around the world. But I think the fact that like he did things like dismantling the pandemic response team like Obama had before, and then he downplayed the virus, and then stuff comes out later where he's talking about with Bob Woodward, like it's pretty serious or whatever. So like he, as a strategy, he tried to publicly downplay it. I think turning the masks into a political culture thing was a terrible idea. Like you should have just deferred to public health officials, and the messaging on that was already confusing enough when you had like Fauci saying, "Oh, you don't need them this month," but then 2 weeks later, like certain areas you very well might need to wear a mask in an indoor setting, something like that. And then I think just optics wise too, like Trump got COVID, half the Republicans got COVID in the ceremony for the Supreme Court justice, and they're celebrating that. And in terms of the economic response, like people are, trying to make ends meet. We already had kind of a rent crisis going into it, and it's only getting worse as we speak, really. And now they're even talking about like the 600 checks, as opposed to like I guess they did the 1,200 right in the spring, but
Last time, yeah.
yeah, I think people kind of saw that, and then they saw the shit like the was it $1 trillion in liquidity just like thrown into the stock market for a bailout, and then people I feel like people felt there was so much confusion with literally 50 states doing 50 different things. The federal government wasn't really taking charge of that and just kind of being like, no, don't worry, like go shop, and like people really didn't know what to believe, and I think that haunted him. And then Biden didn't do anything too crazy to a lot of people, to the average voter. I think he was just like, yeah, I'm wearing a mask and not going to big rallies and shit, and that was enough for people, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely the lack of taking charge from the federal government definitely like led to a worse response to the virus overall. And yeah, just the lack of unity between Republican and Democratic governors, between states having drastically different ideas, and when people see that, people see lack of unity between leaders, it's like, oh, this is all just bullshit. Like this is retarded. Like why am I wearing masks on this state line? Go 20 miles the other way, I don't have to wear a mask. This is
Yeah.
silly and ridiculous. Whereas if everyone united and was like, no, wear your masks, take it seriously, like you could probably even still go to your
Like
what was it?
We could be going to baseball games right now.
Yeah,
not,
for real.
Not now, but in like the fall we could.
Yeah. But yeah, at least a lot more quickly than what we're trending to right now.
For sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think the lack of unity is one of the biggest things. And I feel like it was Trump's administration's idea was more so to do damage control politically than it was to damage control like medically and against the actual virus. It was more so let's like banning travel from China initially, and then it was like, oh, we need to reel back. We can't just like 100% close down borders, even though that may have been better for the
Usually it's all
disease.
about that, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, right. But yeah, I feel like it was much more about saving face politically than it was helping Americans. And I think in the end that was his doom.
Okay, I could definitely see that. I just wanted to say for people in the comments, we're looking at this from the perspective of the American, like the quasi American voter, the monolith that is the American voting bloc, right?
not
So
necessarily our views per se, but
yeah. So you in the comments may not see any of this way, but I think pretty much everything everybody said is very much in line with like any sort of moderate and even a lot of, you know, if we want to go into the nuances of it, even a lot of fringe people hold a lot of these positions. So, but yeah, no, I think you guys both did a really good job of summing it up. I think one of the other things is that I think maybe was kind of hinted at, but being locked up, you know, even if you thought it was the right thing to do, was hard on a lot of people, and people were looking for something to blame, in my opinion. You know, whether you think it's Donald Trump's fault or not, there's somebody out there who legitimately believed when they went to go vote that like everything terrible that has happened to the coronavirus is his fault. And, you know, I'm not going to make a claim one way or another right now, but yeah, I think we should at least give a little bit of time before we start making super broad claims like that. But I could definitely see where that kind of position would come from. And that I think is a large part of why, you know, they wanted to focus this somewhere, and maybe shaking up the system was the way. I could see a lot of people switching from Republican to Democrat like that is basically what I'm getting at. So no, yeah, but I think what you guys both said is really good. So now that we've talked about all of these things that have kind of led up to 2020, I think we can kind of sort of, oh, actually, before we go on, I wanted to bring up one more thing. How much do you guys think by the time all this rolled around, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Supreme Court hearings were before the election, right? For the nomination of a new Supreme Court justice whose name I don't remember.
right.
Yeah.
ACB or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy Coney Barrett, I think that's her name.
Yeah.
I just remember her face, blonde female, right?
Mary Sue Justice.
More or less.
Yeah.
Mary Sue.
Yeah. So do you guys think that that had any sort of, do you think any last minute voters would have been like, okay, well, this is the hill that I die on, I guess, or whatever. And they swap their votes.
I think that's possible. I think it might have been seen by some in bad taste the way that like they blocked Obama appointees, and then like before an election they try to shove that through, and that also, you know, took energy away from like Congress getting together and doing stuff about you know, corona and healthcare and things like that people need. So I don't think that swayed that many people, though. I think people had probably decided like by midsummer.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was more of a bad optic than it was a deciding factor in people. Because I feel like, I don't know, especially being related to a lot of Trumpies, hardcore too. Fucking
Trumpettes, dude.
if my mom liked tattoos, she'd have a fucking Trump tattoo. Let me tell you.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I don't see that as a big enough factor to sway voters.
Yeah, I think this was one of those seasons where, you know, and I think we've said this for the last like 50 years probably, but, you know, it really felt like once the nominees were selected, pretty much everybody knew who they were voting for already. And there wasn't a whole lot you could do to sway one way or another. Like once Joe Biden was selected, pretty much everybody was like, all right, okay, I know who I'm going to throw my hat in with. I can't think of a single person, and granted, I have a sample size of maybe 20, 30 people that I've talked to about before and after, you know, but I can't think of a single person that's changed their opinion one way or another. Like, oh, I was going to vote Biden and then I voted Trump, or vice versa. Seems like everybody was pretty consistent. Like you said, around midsummer, they just all kind of knew who they were voting for.
I think the swing voters do exist, but like, I think it's a well-documented fact that like people that voted for Obama twice voted for Trump. Not that many, but you know, like there are people that can be swayed certain ways by messaging, but I think Trump probably did lose some of his support, but his core support definitely stayed there. And ultimately, like Brian said, I think he did and still probably does have a grip on the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think similar to the 2016 election, this was another election of, well, at least, if you get what I mean, it was, well, at least Hillary's not Trump. Like, well, at least Trump is an outsider. Or,
Yeah.
well, at least Joe isn't racist, which is like, he locked up more black people than Trump ever could dream of.
Chronicles.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I always talked about before the election was that Trump losing his political outsider status, I think, did more damage to him than anybody realized. Just because that was a huge 2016 selling ticket. I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman. And it's like, well, it turns out now you're a politician. So you can't really be like, oh, I'm just the president. I'm not a politician. Like, we've watched you for however many years. You're a politician. And I think losing that lost a lot of that independent voter base that he managed to pull last time. Not that he had a massive share of independents in 2016, but he had an even worse in the last election. So I don't, again, we're kind of speculating here at this point, but that's part of the fun of it all, right? So, yeah. So if you have anything else to say,
I think that's a good point. Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, I think that's interesting though. I wonder if people see him as still like there are people who I think who are in their bubble and they like stay in that bubble and they're convinced Trump's draining the swamp or whatever. But then there's others who might look at his cabinet picks and like how cozy he is with some top Republicans who have been corrupt for years, or for example the way he was cozy with top Democrats in the past and shit like that, and maybe think twice about it. Like maybe this guy's a con man.
Yeah.
Yeah, which then it begs the question comparing. So yeah, Trump was coming in as a businessman, not a politician. I'm an outsider. It's like, what's the difference? Like, a businessman is selling his product, whatever, let's say shoes, is making the best shoe he possibly can to please his customers. A politician is just selling himself the best way he can to please his voters. It's all the same shit.
The way he did it in 2016 too was like hilarious and authentic, and also disturbing, I guess, depending on your point of view. But like,
yeah,
you can't act like he didn't wreck everyone in the primary and just like totally take charge,
Oh
but
my
I think
god, yeah.
he lost that magic. Like, oh, dude, the debates this time around were even weirder. I think almost.
I would
Weird
just
in
go,
a bad way too.
Yeah, like just cringy. Like
that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say I'll just flat out call them worse. They were not good.
Yeah.
Oh man, we did live coverage over here for fun mostly because there was no analysis, and I on the second one. No, on the second one I was like, listen, bring your own beer because this is gonna be, we're all just gonna sit here and drink and laugh basically. So. We got some great clips out of it though. The "Will you shut up, man" GIF, like that one's infinitely useful.
Very memeable.
Very.
And sweaty, methed up Trump just interrupting every single sentence. like at least against Hillary. Sorry, what?
A little too much Sudafed, that's it.
Yeah, right. At least against Hillary, he would like pick his moments and like get his jab in and like lay back. Whereas with this, it was just yeah. Whereas this time it was just
like a gotcha moment, like
for sure.
But just talking over someone doesn't have the same effect in debate.
100%.
Yeah, he was trying to manufacture it this time. I think, like you said, it kind of like Hillary wrote her own zingers, honestly, and not that Biden didn't, but that it was a lot harder to like really push them. Like,
well, he tried to like shit on Hunter Biden, and I think people were like, "Oh, dude, like you're shitting on him for having a drug addict son. Like you kind of look like a dick, man."
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, and I mean, you know, we can move on after this, but now that we brought it up, regardless of what was on those, you know, you remember the laptop thing? It's still going on, you know. It started before the election. It's still going on. The dude was on Fox. I can't remember his name, Bob Bobolinsky or whatever. Yeah, and I think that was, if that was like a, regardless of if it's true or not, if publicizing it like this was an attempt to gain Trump support, like I don't know who was going to see that and be like, oh, I'm going to vote for Trump now.
Yeah.
It's the whole emails thing over again, like replayed.
Yeah, exactly. Except for this time, it was like a lot less worse because
Yeah, and Rona kind of overshadowed everything. I feel like was like we
That
don't really
too.
talk about this. Like,
Yeah. Which then it was like the emails with Hillary was the actual candidate, like doing
yeah,
the.
I think that did probably impact it because no one really trusted Hillary, and like in that what was it with Comey releasing stuff like right before the election? I think that probably swayed a few people.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then yeah, I guess is that just Comey just doing his job? I guess at that point,
It was
because it
just super
seems like
awkward timing. Like,
yeah, well, because it's like throughout Trump's election, it seems as if Comey can't stand Trump. You
yeah,
know, kind of
he
doesn't
definitely
want. Yeah, and then it was like
yeah.
Trump just bashed the shit out of him, and he's like, "Well, now I'm never gonna try to help you out."
well, he definitely put his foot in his mouth, Comey. Like it was very, even during the hearings,
Oh,
like
yeah.
when he got pressed on some of the things that he said, he was like, "Oh, probably shouldn't have said that," you know. So he kind of dug his own grave on that one, I think, a little bit. But yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, that definitely had, for sure, had an impact on the 2016 election to some degree. But so now that we've kind of taken 2016 through 2020 and kind of hit the high notes and the low notes of what could have led to the Biden Kamala Harris presidency that we have now, what are you guys looking at from 2020 going forward? Now we're in full blown speculation territory. We're only going to be able to really go off of what people have said and what we see, but that's fine. We're just here to play political analyst. So, whoever wants to start, I'm curious what you think 2020 through 2024 is going to shake up like.
Well, the corona vaccine is gonna give everybody super mutant zombie AIDS,
Oh, there we go.
and
I was
and
waiting
Kamala
for.
Harris is going to cut Biden's head off at a press conference and assume power,
Oh,
and then yeah,
so
she's gonna use her mutant hybrid zombie cyborg army to then take over the world.
Okay.
Boom.
wow.
Not even
Actually,
a bold prediction. That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Honestly, with the way 2020's gone, that seems like we're on course for that. So,
Yeah.
buckle up, buckaroo.
I saw a video of her eyes blinking sideways. So, you know, it never, you know, who
Lizard
knows,
confirmed.
man. Lizard confirmed.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. You guys think V was just a TV show? It was a documentary. All right. That's a reference I don't know if a lot of people will get. Oh, did I just date myself?
Cyberpunk?
No. V is it was a TV show about aliens that come to Earth and they're lizard people, but they make it seem like they're basically humans and they can like, oh, we can cure all your diseases, and then they eat people.
Oh. Yeah, no, once I heard V, I thought of Cyberpunk, so.
Yeah.
Thought of like V for Dead or some shit.
No, it was a really old TV show that got remade in like 2008, 9, something like that. Yeah. It was a long
Geesh,
time. Yeah.
that was pretty niche.
Yeah, it was pretty niche. I'm good at those. All right. Keep this train rolling forward. We'll just cruise on past that one.
Okay.
All right. So, serious. Okay. So, all right. We're going to pretend.
Serious.
Yeah, we were going to pretend Brian was serious there and skip him. He's lost his turn.
I don't know. He might have been like. It's possible.
Look at that face. That's not a lion man's face.
It really is hard to say. I think what's going to happen in the next 4 years. Yeah, like the corona vaccine is going to come out, and hopefully shit will get normal. And by the time it's the midterms, I feel like we're not going to be in great shape as a country, but hopefully like the economic recovery will at least be underway. I kind of feel like Democrats are going to lose the Georgia runoffs. I just
Probably.
in my gut, that's what I'm guessing will happen. Even though those two are just objectively shitty politicians, I think. Not that the Democrats are fucking golden child people either, but you know, weren't those the two that did like the inside stock trading shit when
Yeah.
right when Corona happened? So like, I don't know. I'm getting a lot more pessimistic about the future of this country politically, especially when like almost a third of one party won't accept the election results. And that's not to say that that shit doesn't go both ways, because that whole fucking he's not my president, like that type of shit, that was going on for a while too. So like the culture wars are gonna keep raging, and social media and all that crap is only gonna amplify it, and all this whatever the fuck it is, Russian bots, you name it. Who knows? I feel like the temperature is hopefully gonna cool down in this country and shit won't get worse. But I don't know. The pessimist in me feels like we're not really close to the light at the end of the tunnel yet. And then fucking Trump might run again in 2024 too. So I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see.
It's funny you brought up the Russian bots. I prefer the Chilean meme farmers personally, but the Russian bots are good.
There you go.
Um,
They're good at their job, though.
yeah, they
Get
are.
those niche memes.
Yeah, the niche memes. There we go. Man. Yeah. So, okay. So something we didn't talk about. So we're going to kind of take a step back to take a step forward. Kind of the social unrest that we've seen over the last, let's just say 5-6 months. Really, June, right? Was when it all kind of really kicked off. And then we had the Chaz and all that stuff kind of pushing through all the way into the fall, which then it kind of petered out, right? So we had the big long string of protests, social unrest. I don't know. Do you guys think so? There's a lot of people who are worried that kind of a precedent has been set and that these people have kind of been enabled to provoke social unrest. And I'm just kind of curious what y'all's opinion on that going forward is. I know a lot of people are pessimistic on both sides, and I'm just curious where you guys stand on this personally.
Stand on
The
the social unrest in general?
yeah,
Or
like how we're going forward from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like kind of what Derek was saying before the question was even asked, is that Biden can at the very least lower the temperature and kind of calm everybody the fuck down. I think the biggest thing is, I mean, like, Americans should be allowed to protest and protest on anything you feel is wrong. Fuck yeah, that's your right. When you start destroying people's private property, that's when it goes too fucking far.
Yeah.
Like I would even go as far as to say, like, in Minneapolis, like, if they felt like burning down the police station, like after the cops basically like evacuated, like, okay, yeah, you showed how fed up you were with the police. Awesome. When you start burning down a fucking Target,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah,
Like,
no, I definitely understand where you're coming
Don't hurt
from.
the mom and pop shops. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, true. Target can absorb that blow, but
it fucks local businesses up at the same time. Like,
yeah, Nancy and John down the road, they're bankrupt for life now, and
can I jump in there?
Yeah, go for it.
I feel like a lot of the stuff that's been happening has been festering for a while and like hasn't been addressed, and I think we all know this. Like, the further you go back, the worse it gets in terms of the way like minorities in this country were treated, and we're still not totally there. Like, and kind of to a point you brought up about Biden, I'm not so sure Biden will be able to stop all of it, because I think, like, take the Rodney King incident with, you know, the LA riots. Was that, I believe Clinton was in office then, right? Or am I wrong there?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So like situations like that I think can snowball incredibly quickly. Like the George Floyd incident obviously terrible, gross injustice. Everyone can see it like right in front of their face. But what happens there is you go from people actually trying to protest peacefully to it's seemingly the only way the police know how to respond is with force, and they escalate shit and make it worse. And then that, snowballs and snowballs. All of a sudden, you have like a de facto lawlessness in different parts of the city, and that inevitably leads to opportunism and looters and all sorts of bad actors, and like the clashing of like fucking Antifa and the Proud Boys, you name it. It just creates an environment where the temperature's already been raised, and that stuff becomes more and more likely. But so that's what I'm worried about, is that I hope Biden takes like some of these reforms seriously about police, because if none of that shit gets addressed the next time there's a shooting of an unarmed black guy, for example, like there will be justified anger, and that'll kind of get out of control because just shit has not been changed for so long. And like it, and police reform, like regardless of your race, should be a fucking thing everyone's fighting for. Like you shouldn't want the government to be, I know you agree with me on that shit.
Yeah, you don't have to convince me. You don't have to convince me about that. Yeah. No fucking doubt about it.
So I hope that shit gets fixed, because if it doesn't, like, it's not gonna happen overnight. But like, this stuff needs to change with like the types of situation cops are asked to deal with. Which I think, like someone who pays attention to what's happening on the left too, I don't like the phrase defund the police. I don't think it's a marketable phrase. I know that sounds like the wrong way to approach it, but I get the idea of it, though, that you should be allowing different professionals to deal with the situations we're asking the police. Like they probably shouldn't be trying to deal with even some domestic violence situations and like drug abuse and those types of things. You should have social workers and qualified people that can de-escalate those situations, instead of a guy who's got more firearm training than he does de-escalation training. Like
yeah, there should be more. Sorry, you good?
Yeah, no, I just think it should be reprioritized, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. There should be supplementation to what the cops currently provide. And then it's like, if you want to talk about defunding the police, you then have to speak about the service that the police are currently providing needs to be then replaced by some sort of private or other organization. Because it's like, people are going to have to respond to these certain situations that firefighters and EMTs aren't equipped to provide help in that situation. Like, nobody's out here asking to defund EMTs and firefighters, but it's like they can't do it fucking all. Like guy with a knife in a park trying to shank people. Like nobody wants to deal with that shit, but somebody has to.
Cops will deal with shit, but let's not make their job even harder.
True, or like ruin some dude's life who decided to become a cop, and he has to like blast some guys losing his shit in the park.
Yeah, like they're trained to use force to stop bad actors in society, and they're supposed to keep the peace. But then we ask them to do all sorts of other shit that they're just not really qualified to be doing, frankly. And so making, what's the old phrase, like you can't, I don't know, put a square peg in a round hole, that kind of shit. Yeah. It's not really a good idea to just ask the police to handle everything.
You can't put lipstick on a pig.
There we go. I do want to keep going on this train, but I wanted to address one of the comments that just stuck out to me. And it asked, what do you think about the new Space Force soldiers being called Guardians? I think that's fucking hilarious.
It's kind of awesome.
Guardians, really? Like that's I'm Guardian First Class Moore. Hello there. God, it's so cringe. Jesus.
Halo is also a documentary.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez. I just wanted to get that out there. I don't know. I just wanted to throw that quip out real quick because it stood out to me. I was reading that actually either yesterday or this morning, whenever they announced it. And I was like, wow, that's lame. Like, wow. I guess it's better than Space Cadets, but still, I mean.
Yeah, that was taken.
So me as the extreme sycophant that I am, I actually got a little excited when they were saying defund the police. I was like, okay, it's like AOC. This is something I can agree with you on, and I get it 100% why they pivoted super hard, because if you want to lose the moderates, you say defund the police. If you want to make yourself look like a super fringe, way out there political extremist, you say defund the police. And I think, like they're using a lot of other terms now, like redistribution, and it's all pretty much talking about the same thing. But I do agree with the core sentiment that police are highly aggressive, overempowered, tyrannical in most cases, and definitely need some reality checks for a whole lot of them. But I very much so agree with what you said, Derek, that I think that the president doesn't get to decide where the social unrest comes from. The social unrest is created by situations, not by political environments, really. So, but I do think some people thought, like, maybe if we get Biden in, like, we can push some of this through, but I don't think it'll be fast enough. And even if it is fast enough, something will happen. Someone won't have their, pretty much every state. Yeah, pretty much every state has like body cam laws now. How many times have we seen, oh, my body cam wasn't on?
Boston thing you sent to me, Clancy?
Yeah. I just saw a clip of a Boston cop, and he's talking to a fellow cop, and he's like, oi, by the way, he has a thick as fucking Boston accent.
Boston.
And thankfully I can do a pretty fucking good one. So he's like, oh, dude, I was down on the fucking parkway and they were fucking getting in my way. So I was just about to fucking run him over. And the cop is like, bro, shut the fuck up. And he like covers his cam and is like, dude, shut. What are you doing? And he's just like, and then he goes back to him. And he's just like, oh, I didn't mean. I was actually gonna fucking run him over. I just meant like, I thought about it,
There was a minute.
You can tell he knew he fucked up.
Yeah.
White knuckled the wheel for a second there, but I didn't do it,
I could have fucking ran those cocksuckers over, but I didn't. All right, Larry, get off my fucking back.
Oh man, that's a very
but I didn't.
Yeah. It's very fucking Boston, very much so. Yeah, I mean, and we have those things for a reason, because these people are given very, very high powers. And people don't like saying this because they feel like it alienates police officers, but I don't have a problem calling them like privileged citizens, because they have rights and powers adjudicated to them that we will never have. And they are able to do things to people that we will never be able to do, regardless of the circumstances. So, and I do think that, like, if they are going to exist, which I know is a whole nother conversation, but, just continuing on the conversation we were having, there has to be extremely stringent requirements, and there has to be an extremely high standard. And if that means that we fire cops all the time that suck, okay, if that's what it takes, To
go into the libertarian vein there a little bit, like, kind of to your point, it's the state granting an individual like the right of life and death in certain situations over the citizens.
Oh yeah.
Not that that's their main job, obviously, to like kill their own citizens, but like that power is legally given to them.
Yeah, and very loose circumstances.
Yeah, and the militarization of police is only increased in the last 20 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like our military is just. It's like fucking Santa's Christmas sack, and it's just overflowing with fucking armored vehicles and ARs, and they're just like, well, I guess we'll give these to the police. Here you go. Here's $100 for an armored vehicle from fucking the army or some shit. And it's like, why does a small police force in fucking Missouri need a fucking APC to blast through a fucking wall and take people down? It's like, all right.
I went to school in like a really small town outside of Houston. I say really small, you know, it was a decent size, but it wasn't huge by any means. Like you pretty much knew everybody. It was a good community sized town. And I remember when they bought this bomb proof APC with like a mounted gun on the top of it and everything. And I was like, we had a wife shoot her husband with a shotgun, and like one kid brought a gun to school and like shot himself in the leg trying to show it off to his buddies. And that's like the worst things that have happened in that entire town. So like, what do you need this bomb-proof armored vehicle? Like, oh my God, he's jaywalking. You know, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you, policing Fallujah? Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
Didn't South Park literally did an episode like that this year in the pandemic special, where like the cops like were doing everyone else's jobs, like they were doing the teachers' jobs. And they're like we got a runner, and he was like,
Yeah.
we got him, and they
only shoot
like a shot his token. Like,
Yeah. Oh man, that's so good. Or when he was outside playing in the snow.
Yeah.
Drop
like,
the snowball.
Lockdown orders. Like,
Yeah. We got a runner. Oh man, that was a great fucking special, by the way. If anybody hasn't seen it, yes, but this is live, by the way, for you in the comments. But great special, amazing. I love that show.
Oh yeah, fantastic. And then more on like the APC, and then from like the cops' perspective, it's like, well, Daddy Sam just gave me an armored vehicle, and now I have a chance to use it. I'm gonna fucking use it. Like, it's like, all right, yeah. Give a 6-year-old a fucking gun, he might shoot it. Like,
why do I got this door knocker down for nothing? I gotta knock some doors down.
Yeah. I did knock. I hit it with the battering ram. You know? Jeez. Yeah. Okay.
For no knock warrants. Oh.
God. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. And fucking red flag laws.
Don't even get me started on no knocks. Houston issued those a while back, and it's been nothing but total disasters. We've had like 8 people killed unjustly in no knock warrants because, lo and behold, people in Texas have guns in their houses, and when you knock down their doors,
crazy.
Yeah, when you knock down their fucking door,
there'd be no Breonna Taylor story.
Yeah. Also, that. Yeah, and they don't knock your door down at 3 p.m. They pick 2:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Right as you're fucking.
Like, who the fuck do you think is coming into your house without a knock at that hour?
Daddy Popo, come to make a visit. Don't shoot or you'll die. You might die.
It's kind of mind-blowing though. Like, I feel like that's like only in America type shit. Like,
oh yeah.
Unless you're in like an authoritarian state somewhere, like where the fuck else does that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, land of the free, right? You know?
Yeah. So Lyle, they did wind up ditching no knocks, but that was after 8 people died unjustly in no knock raids trying to defend. And so they were like, oh man, we've had this for 3 years and 8 people have died that we've turned out, and nobody got fired. Nobody lost their jobs. Nobody got put on retirement with paid leave or whatever, you know. It was just like, oh, well, guess they shouldn't have pulled the gun on the cops. And yeah. But okay, so we went on a super far tangent, and trust me, I could talk about this literally all night. I have we'll call it a burning passion for law enforcement. We'll put it that way. But kind of
as
bringing
we switch topics, can I take a pee break?
Sure. Yeah, pee break. Does anybody else need a pee break? Or?
Yeah. All
right. Here, I'll catch up on comments while you guys do a pee break. 2 cops were prosecuted. That was on the first one, I believe. And I don't think anything happened to them, though. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I don't think... maybe they were put on, like, whatever it is, leave without whatever. But that was in the knock where they knocked down the dude's door, and he went for the shotgun, and they shot him. And then the wife went for the shotgun because they shot her husband. And they were like, oh, shit, this is not the right people. And I think that's that one. So I could have been wrong there. But Space Force does not make logical sense because the majority of commerce and intelligence relies on our orbit now. I think the biggest threat is not Russia or China, but rather the Kessler syndrome. I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea what the Kessler syndrome is. I don't think I've ever heard someone say that before. But if you would like to explain while they're on a pee break, I'd be more than happy to give a rebuttal or agree, because I don't know what that means. 2 cops were prosecuted. Yeah, I know that they did ditch the no-knocks, though. It was like 3 years, I think, they had the no-knock warrants on the books. The Boston accent is by far the best American accent. Fight me. There we go. I think YouTube's a pretty long
Fight
ways
you,
behind.
cocksucker! I'd more likely fucking kiss you.
Oh, Jesus. I forgot you have your wireless headset on.
On the all-hearing fucking eye, you cocksucker. And I'm back.
You're not from Boston though, right? You're from like
I'm like from 30 minutes outside of Boston, but my parents are like from Boston. Like
true
my mother
Bostonians.
can't pronounce most of her R's. Yeah.
What
so.
the fuck, Brian?
Fucking Labor Day.
All right. So now that we had our pee break, everybody's got their drinks. We're all good?
Yep.
Okay. Bringing this we're going to go all the way back to where we started, which got us on this crazy train. And we're looking at 2020 moving forward. So I kind of want to throw some ideas of things that people are talking about at you guys. We'll just kind of let them bounce off of you, see what you guys think. If it leads to some conversation, we can go down that way. Not nearly as structured as the beginning of this was. It'll be more of a conversation. So a lot of people are talking about I'll just call it a conspiracy, because that would be pretty much what it is at this point, that Biden is just a placeholder and that he will be removed so that we can have Kamala Harris as president shortly after, sometime, we'll say within a year of him becoming president. What do you guys think about that?
100%. Because it's like, what is the reasoning that the DNC would feel that Biden is their best pick out of a lot of semi-okay picks, at least non-fucking senile picks that they had.
Okay, so let's not go too far off topic, but I'm curious. I feel like I gotta probe you a little bit more on this. No, you're fine. I just kind of want to make sure we stay kind of focused. But who do you think would have been a better field, like as far as getting the votes, than a Biden-Harris ticket? Do you think Bernie would have done better, or Elizabeth Warren, or?
I think there's a chance Bernie could, although he's very divisive in the sense that he's a socialist, and I feel like his momentum has kind of puttered out since the 2016 election, where he actually had a chance to be a viable primary candidate.
Yeah, he looked good in 2020 for a while, and then Super Tuesday happened, and then it was all downhill from there.
Yeah.
Because I think the polls were showing too, like, honestly, Biden looked finished, like, early on after, like, Iowa and New Hampshire. But to get back to your point, though, I think there's a lot of people in the higher-ups that, like, they're satisfied with what Biden's been able to do. He got the dub, and we'll see how far that goes. Like, if they think he's politically useful, they're going to keep him going. Same way Republicans did with Trump. And as soon as, like, that becomes unfeasible, or they think he's just like a lame duck, or, not getting the job done, they'll probably pivot to Kamala. But I'm not really convinced Kamala is a great unifier either. Like, she didn't win a single state in the primaries, and, like, she's got problems with both the left and the right. Like, I'm not so sure where they're gonna go from there with her, but
she has a garbage track record. I think just in the amount of frequency of the garbage and how short of a time span, it looks worse than Biden. Because you can pick some times where Biden was really shitty, and it's like over how many years was he in politics again? Like 40
plus.
Probably since the mid 80s at least.
Yeah, it's
not
like
70s even.
Yeah, 40 plus years, and we can cherry pick, like, okay, he did this that we don't like in this. And it's like Kamala Harris has a significantly shorter political career with many, many, many more things that you can say, okay, this is bad and this is bad. So I agree. I don't think she would be a unifying force, but I'm curious, Brian, like what makes you think, since I guess I'm not saying it won't happen, but I don't see it being like what makes you feel like, other than Joe Biden bad, like that would be like a smart move from the Democrats' perspective?
From basically removing Biden and putting Kamala in. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
You know, as we kind of discussed it right now, I feel like maybe it isn't the best move for the Democrats. Like, because what is Biden not willing to do for these people? Because it seems like he's just ready to capitulate and do whatever his masters want, essentially. You know?
Your sweat dream.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's less why will Biden be removed? It's more so, will there be something he doesn't decide to do for them, and then they remove him.
Could I jump into that?
Yeah, go for it, man.
I was gonna say it's kind of that point too. I feel like there are people in government, like the Mitt Romneys and the Joe Manchins, that like will be more than okay with a Biden presidency, and will use that as an opportunity to be like, hey, look at me, I reached across the aisle, I got a few things done, and they can pat themselves on the back even if it doesn't really help anyone. And I feel like the performative elements of politics are going to be very strong the next 4 years. Not that they weren't the last four, but that's going to be something going forward where I wonder if we'll see cracks in like the powers that be and the coalitions, like the Schumers, the Pelosi's, the McConnells, like whether or not their power is going to start waning and we'll see new factions forming, whether it's the Squad or like the Dan Crenshaws of the Republican Party, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So this is kind of like, I think this is a unpopular opinion depending on who I talk to, or a very popular opinion, but I definitely see the Squad as being the left's almost a reactionary movement, but it's definitely their populist movement.
It's similar to the Tea Party. Not that I would say that they have traits that they share with the Tea Party, but more so in the sense that it's a further from the center insurgency in the party that's vying for the power.
Yeah.
And I think the Squad will be more successful than the Tea Party ultimately.
I think so too, because I do think that they have a lot easier of a sell to a lot of people. And who's
the Squad compromise of?
I don't remember
Squad's like AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley.
Yeah, that's
it's a hell of a name, honestly. Squad, like, got me interested
Squad.
based off Squad.
You can thank Twitter for that.
It's gonna grow too, because I feel like it's like a generalistic term they give to like new progressives coming in, and there's Jamal Bowman from New York. He's gonna be a new progressive. And I'm trying to think of some other ones. Like Ro Khanna is almost like an honorary member from California as representative. Like people that were in the Bernie wing of the party, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So a very new generational Democratic kind of sub unit.
Almost the new left. Like I feel like I see on Twitter a lot, people are distinguishing between liberal and leftist. Like liberal is almost a derogatory term to refer to the milquetoast centrists now, and like that kind of thing.
See, it's funny because liberal used to be the compliment and leftist used to be the insult. I mean,
but the Cold War has been over for a while, so
it's interesting to see that Overton window kind of move a little bit every year.
It's shifting.
So I mean, while we're on the topic of the Squad pulling for power, I mean, I feel like you would probably be the most qualified person here as far as like knowing the more of the characteristics of the Squad in general. What is your personal opinion on them going forward? Like, what is a worst case scenario? Us winding up with a bunch of Schumers and Pelosi's, or us winding up with a whole bunch of Squads in power?
Sure, because I feel like the future is probably going to be a mix either way. some of the people that have been in politics for like 40 years, like Pelosi, like that influence isn't just going to disappear overnight.
Yeah.
But I feel like the squad is trying to take the Democratic Party in a more positive direction, back to their roots, less, less big money in politics, actually listening to the needs of your constituency and trying to address them rather than going to, a giant wealthy donor like when AOC beat her opponent. I think it was Joseph Crowley or something like that. He was a Pelosi backed, however many year, probably like eight times in a row incumbent, something like that. She went against that political machine and won. So that demonstrates that there is genuine progressive grassroots ability to win, congressional seats and potentially even Senate races. And there's been some of that in the Republican Party too, in terms of the grassroots movements, I think. And to me, I think like money in politics is an almost universally corrosive element. So to me, I don't want to see the Schumers and the Pelosi's be the ones running the party for the next decade or so. So I'm hoping they'll either become the dominant influence in the party, or at least get the Pelosi's, the Schumers, the Bidens to move in the right direction on certain issues.
Yeah, I would personally rather see the Schumers and Pelosi's and Bidens move on. Like, you've had your time, you had your chance to make your changes. Let someone else at least have a chance. Although I may not like the outcome of the AOCs and the other squad members, I would at least rather see another human being have a chance to make an impact.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of, term limits go either way, depending on who you're talking to and what their particular strategy is with politics. But, it's something I've talked about for a long time as a way to drain the swamp without having to vote someone in for however long to drain it. It just drains itself. But I have reservations about the squad. I'll be completely honest. I have a lot of apprehensions with some of the ideas that they've talked about. Like, we'll just talk about the elephant in the room, like the Green New Deal. There's some incredible challenges there that would make or break the country. Like that. I feel like that's not in. I don't think that's. I feel like I'm being pretty objective when I say that. Like that. Something like that. Like, we're talking big things. We haven't seen a politician bring up something to that scale of reform. Like, it makes Medicare for all look like a little side dish to the grand poobah of, we have like the Reconstruction, basically, So, I do think though, like, and I think the words grassroots kind of touches on what I was saying. I still kind of lean towards, just by the way that they grow in their rhetoric, they remind me a lot of old school populist movements, which isn't necessarily derogatory. It's just another political strategy, right? And but yeah, I feel like that they will continue to build in power and their numbers will grow, and they may never take over the Democratic Party, but they will always be a thorn in everybody's side that isn't with them.
Yeah.
Whether you're Pelosi or Schumer or just some moderate in between, they will always be there to be like, hey, we need XYZ program that we believe is the next step or whatever. And so I think they'll be pretty big. If there was ever a group to say like Biden isn't cutting it in the Democratic Party, I feel like they would probably be the ones to come out and say something about it, because that would probably be a popular sentiment to their voting base, particularly.
I think that's going to be interesting to see, like how vocal they get. I don't know if you've been following this at all. Have you heard of Jimmy Dore?
Mm-hmm.
Comedian. He has like a talk show now. He's a pretty far left guy, and he frequently advocates for things like let's split from the Democrats and form a third party. And more recently, he's been actually has been doing this thing with like Justin Jackson. Do you know him on the Chargers?
No, I don't know that name.
I forget what position he is, but he's a player on the Chargers in the NFL, and like he's a pretty outspoken leftist guy, like I see on Twitter. And he like had him on his podcast, and they were like basically calling out the squad and other members of Congress to force a vote for Medicare for all and challenge Pelosi's leadership. And they were basically saying like, oh, if Pelosi doesn't force us to a vote, don't even vote for her as the next Speaker of the House. And I'm a little conflicted on like those types of approaches, like the insurgency within the own party type thing. Like I'm not sure the efficacy behind them, but I think that's going to be really interesting to see going forward because AOC was kind of resistant to that idea, like constantly bashing against the centrists that are steering the direction of the party right now. So I think as we go into the Biden presidency, that's going to be interesting to see, the kind of tug of war that goes on.
And
Justin Jackson is the running back, by the way. I just looked it up.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
If you don't mind me commenting on that real quick, Brian, and then I'll let you take the wheel. I think you bring up a good point there, but I'm curious. As someone from outside of the Democratic Party, I see AOC as a person who's built herself on the shock and awe, really, a lot of it. She's the Twitter clip politician. And again, it's a strategy. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily or inherently. It's just what I see.
Get the millennials going.
Yeah, exactly. It's just what I see. And so whenever you take away Donald Trump, you'll still have a Republican-controlled Senate, probably until the midterms, maybe even past that. There's a definite scenario where that's the case as well, just because of the way the Senate works. But I do wonder how much of that is going to get redirected inwards, whether it's in a constructive manner or not, because she does kind of have all of them, but her especially being, the figurehead of the squad has this spotlight on her of like the one who shakes things up. And I wonder if that pressure will lead her down the path of, contesting within the party. And even for someone outside the party, if you want your party to grow, there has to be friction. You can't just have the same people running the show for forever. It's going to be the same. So whether or not they unseat Pelosi, if just from a Democratic position, Democratic Party position, if they move her even slightly further to the left, that's a huge W, because she's been,
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
I could argue. I think you could argue that's already happened to some degree. Maybe not in a meaningful sense, but
yeah,
certainly she feels sensitive to the need to like pander to that coalition at least.
Yeah, exactly. And I think probably then, if I was to speculate, the next goal would probably be to take that even a step further. But sorry, I'll let you go, Brian.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I liked everything you said. I guess as far as the parties and the friction within it and the challenging of the status quo, I hope that it pushes people to look past the two-party system and realize that if your party isn't serving you, it's not necessarily that you have to change your party. You could create your own and move past it. Whether or not there's enough voters out there to actually support it and get it going in a somewhat timely manner, that's a whole nother story. But as far as I think in the climate today, how politically engaged the American people are, I think it's far more than it's been in a long time.
Can I respond to that real quick, actually?
Yeah, go for it, man. Open forum.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you raise a really interesting point that people need to get beyond the binary party system that we have now. Personally, I'm very pessimistic about the idea of, functionally starting a third party and getting that off the ground and actually, creating a wedge in American politics just because we have like the first past the post type of system where the winner takes all in each district. But what I will say, I think is starting to happen, and I sincerely hope continues in the right direction, is that more and more Americans will stop caring about your party affiliation. Like, whether you have a D or an R next to your name probably shouldn't matter as much as it does to people, but you have all sorts of presuppositions you prescribe to people as soon as you hear that label, depending on who you are. And that is the media environment that we live in, where you get your MSNBC, you get your Fox News, you get your Breitbart, your what you name it. Like, people crave those ideological comforts, if you will. And I'm hoping people will become more inquisitive and try to move away from that type of thinking. And you might actually start to see in future elections, hopefully, people shifting away from just voting based on party loyalty. So I don't know if that can happen, especially in the digital age, but I'm hoping with the myriad of information out there, people will hopefully, get a little better informed. But that could just be wishful thinking.
Yeah, 1000%.
Yeah,
Yep.
without philosophizing too much. Sorry, I'll let you. I just want to real quick. I talked a lot about it, just this the natural drive towards tribalism that we as human beings have, and it's something that I'm convinced. It's like the return to monkey meme. It's something that's so hardwired in us that I don't know if we can really expect. And I don't want to come off as like, oh, I am the enlightened one or something. But I feel like you can't expect everybody to be, cognizant enough to understand like why tribalism is bad. But,
it's an uphill battle for sure.
That's basically all I wanted to say about that. Is just I definitely think it would be better if we could just remove the party system in general, and if we could just have a discussion about ideas. I think that would be much more productive. But even if we did that, it would be the for health insurance and the against health insurencers. They wouldn't make their parties. They would just make their positional factions. So.
Because there's some strength to like creating a coalition within one party. Like Reagan, I would say, probably pioneered that in the 20th century.
Yeah.
Although like there's always been like party realignments, like the New Deal, obviously in the early 20th century was a huge realignment there, and that had repercussions going through the 60s. And Reagan was able to combine like the Christian wing, the fiscal conservatives, the libertarianism elements of the party, and create a very strong and very loyal coalition. And I think the Democrats have kind of struggled to counter that type of coalition going forward. But at the same time, it seems like lately trends in terms of population have been trending away from Republicans too.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
Yeah, definitely the older generations, I feel like, are what's stuck on, or what keeps the Republican Party afloat.
Boomers.
Boomers. But yeah.
Well, what's the
I feel
boomer
like
saying?
Republican. What?
What's the boomer saying? You're a liberal until.
Boomer.
Well, no, it's like you're a liberal.
Just
They said, my dad used to say this. He's not
everyone's a liberal till they grow up, or I don't know,
everyone's
like
a liberal until they're smart enough to be a conservative or whatever it is. Some dumb stuff like that. That's like, oh, when you get older and wiser, you'll understand why Republicans are right.
Confirmation bias. Woo.
Yeah.
So you're smart enough to realize they're both fucked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Secret option.
I feel like
C.
that's what we need, though, is people need to understand, like, there kind of is legitimate reasons people, like, believe certain things from the get-go, like why they fall into different camps ideologically, and then go from there and see, like, what can you agree on, what can you disagree on, and, like, in a perfect world, that's where you'd start, but it's far from it.
I believe one thing that I don't think I've really talked about much, because I've kind of been avoiding politics lately because it's just a cesspit. But one thing that I've definitely tried to convey to people is that I really don't believe that there's anybody out there just like rubbing their hands like, I can't wait to steal everybody's money, or I can't wait to block all the Mexicans out. Like, there are people. There is someone somewhere who's doing that. All right. You can find them. I'm sure they exist. There's millions of people in this country. But the overwhelming majority of people who take the positions that could be associated with that are not that. They are concerned with job security or the security of their communities or all these other things. And they believe that this is one way to help that. Or they are concerned with the state of the poor in America. And they believe that universal health insurance is the easiest way to help get those people insured. None of these people are coming at this from the perspective that their opponents portray them as. It's all straw men. And it's not productive. I just wanted to throw that out there. None of the conversations that are being had are productive. Nobody's actually talking about why anybody believes what they believe. They just say whatever the easiest position is to tear down for your opponent. And it's frustrating, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not even just at the federal level. Like, for instance, living in Alaska lately, they just had a re-election of governors, and it was Al Gross and Dan Sullivan. And none of the ads that were run were like, Dan Sullivan stands for this, Al Gross stands for this. It was because I had to see them like 4 times a fucking day, because anytime you'd watch YouTube in Alaska, you'd get fucking face raped with a fucking Al Gross ad. But it'd be like, Al Gross owns a $2.3 million mansion in California. You don't want some fucking Californian running Alaska, right? And then it was like Dan Sullivan fucking licked Trump's balls one time. You don't want some Trumpy fucking running your state, right? And it was like, bro, just shut the fuck both of you. Like,
That
if
honestly-
neither of you can
Sorry.
if neither of you can make a point that just like directly says your message is over this guy's, shut the fuck up. Like, I
To
don't
that
understand.
point, dude, like that, sadly, like, I kind of brought up my optimistic hope for the future about like Americans looking beyond party loyalty, etc. But like, the truth is, in this day and age, like, divisiveness works. Tribalism works. Getting people to see the other person as the enemy and overlook their own faults and weaknesses in their arguments is 100% easier to do than to actually, create a strongman argument as opposed to like attacking a strongman. And
Yeah.
and I feel like, I think I've alluded to this several times already with the digital age. Like, you already had that metamorphosis happening with talk radio, and like I think it was during the Bush Senior administration, they got rid of the fairness doctrine in media, and that's kind of what opened Pandora's box to like partisan political commentary on cable news. And that's just a rabbit hole that's continued to this day. And now we're in an age where fucking Facebook is like, oh, you saw one QAnon article? Here's fucking 20 more. Like, let's dig you a little bit deeper. Like, people are almost ideologically engineered to fucking fall for those traps. So that's what I'm very pessimistic about in terms of the future of our country. People don't know how to not fall into those traps, regardless of what side of the political spectrum you're on.
Yeah, I think that's, I used to be a real shitter. I'm not gonna lie. I used to be a real shitter. I used to like just, you're such a stupid liberal cuck. Okay, I would have never said that, but I would have, strawmanned and beat people down. And it took a long time.
Like,
what's up?
Fucking now I got, like, it feels good. Like, I got a zinger, but
Yeah.
does it really? At the end of the day?
Because that's kind of what I was about to say is like whenever I kind of shifted from being this hyper political constitutionalist to kind of moving away from that was like none of what I'm doing is productive for anybody. It's not helping my position. It's not helping their position. It's not like if I genuinely think someone's wrong, the worst thing, I've said this too many times to people, the worst thing you can do if you want to convince someone that their position is wrong and yours is right is to insult them. That is the absolute worst thing you can do. And what is the first thing? Like, just go to Twitter, post a controversial comment, post. You will get someone
See it every day.
Yeah, one person at minimum will call you like whatever explicative term you want to throw that isn't a bannable offense on Twitter. You will get called it. And I hate to feel I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point. You know, like we're preaching to the choir, but it's just something that I feel like is almost
Choir's
more
too small though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that's so important to me, and I feel like it's on us, really though. And I feel like it's so easy to like dip your toe into the dark side to get frustrated with people. I mean, like, you're just an idiot. You'd never understand. You know, especially
The thing
online.
is, you can throw money into that mix too. Like the grift is fucking lucrative for a lot of people.
It is.
Like, and that just reinforces itself.
Very true. Yeah. I mean, just look. That's so true. I mean, look at like influencer personalities. Like, how do most of them?
Yeah, it's not exclusive to politics either. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do they blow up? Controversy. You know, they say something or do something inflammatory. What when Logan Paul recorded that the guy he recorded that
Forest,
yeah, Suicide Force. His channel fucking exploded. You know? I mean, like, I did a bad. Let me apologize on YouTube and rake in this fucking money, you know.
Oh yeah, have you seen what his brother Jake has done recently?
No, I don't follow them.
To Conor McGregor or
Well,
whatever.
not only that, but so he did the shit talk to Conor McGregor, called his wife a whore. And by the way, I'll be honest, like the way he rattles off his insults within the shit talking is like,
he rehearsed it.
oh, he did, but like he really like it's like it's well done, the shit talk. I'll be honest, and it's coming from some fucking YouTuber talking to an actual
It's not his first time.
double belt holder in the UFC, the only person ever. But anyways, he also rolled up in a pickup to. Do you guys know Brendan Schaub?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Brendan Schaub has a show called Below the Belt, or no, not Below the Belt, but Food Truck Diaries, where he takes a fighter to a food truck, and essentially they go to some food truck in LA and they discuss like what their career is going on, maybe their next fight or whatever, what fight they just had, yada yada, eat the food, whatever. So they're standing on the side of the street waiting to get their food from this food truck and like shooting the show. And like Jake Paul rolls up in a pickup with water balloons and like wet paper towel, and I forget the guy's name. It was like Dan something. But regardless, they like start whipping water balloons at him and throwing wet paper towel. They're like, "You're a fucking pussy," and he's just like, "Yeah, yeah," and he fucking runs up to the truck, and then they speed off before he can fucking catch it. But it's like that clip fucking blows up on Twitter. Like everybody fucking wants to see
Controversy.
Yeah,
Which one's fighting Mayweather?
Logan.
Logan.
I think that's his older brother.
Yeah, Logan.
Jake's
and
the
then
older.
Jake Paul's supposed to fight fucking Oh, okay. Logan's the other. Yep, Logan's the one who knocked out
Nate Robinson.
Nate Robinson.
Yeah.
Nate Robinson.
Which I don't think Logan's a bad dude. I think Logan's like with the
Troubled
Suicide Force
kid.
thing that was fucked up. Yeah. But I feel like through time it's kind of like he's like tried to normalize.
I think they're
himself.
like both borderline sociopaths, but like Logan seems like a slightly better dude, whereas Jake's just like a little fucking middle school incarnate that wants to fucking just push people's buttons and shit.
Well, yeah, because like Logan reacted to Jake's thing and he was like, "What the fuck is wrong with my brother, bro? Like, what the fuck? Like, why would you do that? Like, you're not gonna beat Conor McGregor, bro. Like."
We'll either watch his ass get knocked out, or we'll see the greatest sports upset ever. So
listen, I'm not paying pay-per-view to watch any of the Pauls.
Oh, I'll watch it on Reddit. You know
exactly. I will 100% pirate that though once it's over.
Yeah, because I wasted my fucking money on McGregor and Mayweather, and that was fucking
disappointing as fuck.
Yeah. It's like fucking watching ballet with boxing gloves on.
That was just
fucking dancing around. I
mean, it's just I feel like every Mayweather fight that he's done in the last like fucking 4 years, no, longer. When I was in high school, it was Mayweather versus Pacquiao, and that fight was garbage too. And it was so hype. Everybody was like, "God, Pacquiao is gonna come back and he's gonna beat the crap out of Mayweather." And it was just a bunch of people tickling each other.
Pacquiao's not like a knockout boxer though, so like if you're like a student of the sport, maybe you'd enjoy it, but like
Yeah, and then it's
Yeah.
like that's exactly what Mayweather's made his money off of is touching you and then not getting touched for round after round.
He's like, oh,
It's like
oh,
it's not entertaining.
your nose is right there. Okay, come
Yeah.
on, stay that close.
Yeah. Yeah, Pacquiao didn't have as much reach, so he couldn't fucking touch him.
He's got good hands though. He's got fast hands. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to catch him. That's for damn sure. But
Yeah, no, I'm good on that.
I'm just, since we've gotten to the sports commentary portion of this podcast.
I can't read, but
Okay,
he-
50 Cent.
yeah. You can
Oh,
read
man.
2 pages out of this Dr. Zeus book. I'll pay $30,000 to a charity of your choice.
I
Like,
forgot
what a
about
funny
that.
fucking challenge.
Respond to that.
Yeah.
Oh man. So do you guys have anything else that you wanted to talk about? Anything else that just really was just burning in your loins?
Yeah, my gonorrhea is really flaring up lately.
Yeah,
so-
that'll do it.
Burning those
burning.
lines up.
I think it's
Yeah.
more in like the shaft, less the loins, but I mean I've never had
I
it,
mean-
so I think
Oh,
you'd be the
I thought I
expert.
had it in fucking tech school.
Oh, God. Is that really what you want to say on a live broadcast?
What happened?
Well, I
in
mean,
tech
because I
school,
didn't
buddy.
have it. Some chick hit me up that I was smashing up before I went into the Air Force. She was like, "I think I have gonorrhea." I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And I go get tested, and they're like, "No, you don't have gonorrhea." I'm like, "I didn't think I did, but what the fuck?" And then I text her back. I'm like, "No, I'm fucking negative. Like, why are you?" This is the only thing we've talked about since I've gone in. She's just like,
Okay,
I'm just like,
good
go
talk.
get yourself tested. Well, she got tested again, and she was negative. So she got a false positive and fucking freaked me out for no goddamn reason.
Hey man,
Yeah.
at least
Would
it's
have been
not.
worse if she didn't tell you and you had it, but hey.
Yeah, you
You're
would
not
have
wrong.
You would have found out pretty quick. From
Oh, you
what
would
I've
have
read, yeah, there would have been no. You would definitely would have gone to see, hey doc, something's wrong. I don't know what, but it ain't right.
I'm pissing brown, doc. Help me.
Is that like one of the symptoms of gonorrhea? Your Boston comes out or something? Yeah.
Yeah. I can't pronounce my fucking eyes anymore,
It's
doc.
changing.
Yeah.
I can't help it.
All I crave is clam chowder and Fenway fucking Franks.
Hey, listen. At least she didn't hit you up with like, "Oh, I have chlamydia." Like that shit kills people. So.
Or she didn't
Yeah.
hit me up like I'm pregnant. That's
Ooh.
worse.
Ooh.
Like,
That's worse than dying.
killing that baby.
Oh. Oh man. Oh. Oh no, we don't have to go into that. I was gonna say,
Abortion.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, what do you guys think about the whole like
Tangent.
Roe v. Wade? Like, oh no, they're gonna kill Roe v. Wade because evil Mary Sue is in Supreme Court.
I kind of doubt that's going to happen, but
Same.
Yeah.
I think they kind of know the outcry will be ferocious.
Yeah.
I
A lot of
agree.
noise.
And it's
no
kind
results.
of been legal precedent for a while, so it's like, why would they do it now?
Well, that's the thing. Again, I know we're going into a tangent, but I love when people bring up legal precedent because they're like, "Oh, well, there's legal precedent," and I was like, "Well, obviously,
Yeah,
it's
but
not a fucking
They can make
solved matter."
some new precedent.
Yeah. Legal precedent is the worst way to make a decision I've ever fucking heard of in my life. It's like,
Slippery
well,
slope.
should I buy a slave? It's like, well, this guy bought a slave, so I guess I will.
Trick shot, guys. You
There's-
guess you have to now.
There's a precedent for it, so
I mean, that's kind of a good point, though. Like, fucking, clearly the court's fucked up before in history. Like,
yeah. So don't get me
that
wrong.
shit's not going to stand.
I'm not saying Roe v. Wade is an issue. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is legal precedent is logically unsound. Just saying like another court decided this is a horrible way to make a decision. Consistency? Sure. Right? But if you're
At the
consistently
end of the
wrong.
day, yeah, it's arbitrary at the end of the day. To some degree.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
yeah, you can have all the court opinions you want, but it's like, my opinion was swayed just enough because of these fancy words. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I would love to have a more objective law system in general that uses normalized language that can be easily interpreted from one person to a fucking another. But obviously that's
Yes.
too much. Obviously that's too much to ask for. So all
Get
that I
them
would,
AI lures, baby.
hey, listen, man, when we're all fucking hooked up to the singularity collective consciousness, none of this will be an issue anymore. I'm
Yeah,
convinced.
hive brain. Yeah, hive
Mhm.
brain logic.
Fuck yeah.
The hive brain still needs a pee break. So
Hive brain still
okay.
needs a pee break. All right, well,
Okay.
here's what we'll do. You can go pee. We'll start the outro, and then when he gets back, he can say his goodbye portion. And I don't know, we can hang out or whatever.
Is there any
afterwards,
other topics you want to go through, or?
Not particularly. I think we pretty much hit everything. I was going to bring up the whole, I don't know if you've seen this or not. I sent the article. There was the plot to overthrow the Electoral College results.
It's not going anywhere.
Political suicide, but
It will be interesting.
the start of a great dystopian novel. Let me tell you what.
Oh, this dystopian novel started a long time ago, my friend. I'll be right back.
All right, go for it. I guess I'll just sit here and chortle with the chat. I think everybody's gone. Nope, there's still a couple people here. They're just not talking in the chat. Well, people who are still here, it's great to have you here. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I'm actually a little buzzed. I mean, I figured I would be. This is my second bud. I was going to get 3, but then I was like, I got to drive tomorrow. And I really don't want to be like hungover while driving.
You're only on your second, you fucking pussy.
Dude, this thing is bigger than like 30 of your dicks. All right. I don't even want to hear it.
That's not even impressive.
I know. I should have said like
So
a billion.
I'm 5 Coronas with a tall boy big wave in.
This is like, this
6.
is like the same liquid volume of 5 Coronas out of 2 of these. It's probably 4 out of 2 of these.
These are 12 ounces. Those are 16.
What does it say on here?
That's 1 1/3. You said it was 16 earlier.
No, I said I didn't know. Where the fuck, Budweiser? Tell me how much alcohol I'm drinking.
There's no way they can't list the amount. It's not at the bottom.
No. It says Anheuser-Busch Inc.
Check the back. Put the recycle info. Wow, this has to be a riveting podcast to be watching.
So
Thanks for sticking around, guys.
people are still here. They're just not talking in the chat. So they.
Hey,
I mean-
give us a question, no matter how ridiculous and arbitrary.
Yeah, we'll
No.
answer
We'll
it.
answer it. Yeah.
One thing I've learned is that lurkers do not talk in chat. You could literally be like, I will give you a PS5
Oh.
right now if you type something in chat, and they would just sit.
Literally.
It's like a fucking religion. Like, I will not. It is against my views, my values. I'm a lurker.
I'll have to go.
Oh yeah? Hey lurkers, don't say anything.
Oh.
Now, see, all you're doing is reaffirming them. That's it. You're just giving them
They're
more
like,
power.
oh yeah, I won't.
Yeah. You're just enabling them. Oh no, Caleb. Shit. Oh, he says no thanks, I have a PC. He is still here. All right. Caleb, do you have any burning questions? This is my
Yeah, come on, Caleb. Hit us with some
We got
'Cause-
you, Caleb.
We'll be wrapping up
Yeah.
here. Latest we'll go is another 20 minutes. So if you have any burning questions, bring them up now while we're here, while we have Derek's galaxy-sized brain in this Discord chat. He has to wear a hat to cover his massive fucking cranium.
You don't want to see me take it off. It's like when that guy from the X-Men takes off his glasses. Just
If you put the universe in a tube, you wouldn't want to put the universe in a tube. You wouldn't want to put it in a tube.
What do you think about the
Little
100% gold dollar? All of you?
I think it's.
late for
I
that.
mean, I think it's unattainable now,
Oh,
but
okay.
I think it's more.
Oh, he's
Just-
talking about moving to the gold standard. Okay, so we're officially
Yeah.
we're outside of the projections, and now we're just talking opinions on monetary policy. So go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, funny enough, Caleb, I'm reading In the Fed right now, so it's very relative, relevant. I'm drunk, but
It's very relative.
Cheers.
Whether or not you should end the Fed is a very relative question.
But
right.
yeah, in my retarded monkey brain. Sorry, I just got here. Oh, no worries, dude. But yeah, I think at best it would limit the inflation caused by the Federal Reserve and not allow them to print money at a whim. Other than that, I'm not really sure I can give a solid opinion past that, to be honest.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did Nixon take us off the gold standard?
Yes, it was Richard Nixon.
Okay.
It's been a
kinda-
long time.
I'm not, like I said, or like Brian said, I'm not qualified to say enough on that, but I would probably guess that that's not going to change anytime soon, unless there's some drastic economic fallout. Like a global pandemic hitting or something.
Yeah, okay, so if we're talking about like what could be, what will be, stuff like that, that's one thing. If we're just talking about like our opinions on a gold standard, I think there are lots of merits to having we'll just call it what it is, a commodity-based currency, right? Because all currency is based off of scarcity to some extent, except for fiat. That's the one exception that we can think of. And even then, it does have a pseudo subconscious scarcity to us. Like, we don't have an infinite supply of it. We want more of it because there's only so much of it so that we can buy things, right? Now, as I'm sure you, as someone who's reading In the Fed right now, knows very well, that's not at all how it actually works from top down. But I've done a lot of exploring, and I'm not an economist, and I could be wrong on any of this, but I've yet to have someone challenge me on it because I do think it is kind of a fair position. But I've always kind of taken the perspective of, to whatever extent someone is willing to trade one item for X number of slips of paper, I'm willing to take their slips of paper for it, right? I'm going to give 1 second for Derek to move, just because it's making a lot of noise.
I'm listening.
No, it's just making a lot of noise. You're good. No problem, dude. We're in the commentary portion, so. Also,
I apologize. Sorry, Caleb. I was gonna go try to find my dog, but then never mind.
Patrick Smith is here. Great guy, by the way. If someone is watching this and they aren't subscribed to his content, go subscribe to it right now because the dude's amazing. Does a lot of great work.
Is Economic and Ethics of Private Property a worthy read, Caleb?
Yeah, Caleb's
And who is the
well read.
author? Yeah. Can you put the author in too as well, Caleb?
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. So what I was.
Economics and Ethics of Private Property.
Yeah. So basically, what I was getting at is that I've essentially equated. What's the best way of putting this? I think of fiat in terms of a barter system, right? And that if this slip of paper truly is valueless, then I think we can just go ahead and assume that its value is whatever people assume that it is. It may not have any inherent scarcity, but if people want something and there's a demand for it, and you can't just reach into the ground and pull out as much of it as you want, there's going to be some kind of barter that you can build around it. And all the currency is instead of exchanging goods for something, it is something that you can exchange goods for. You're just cutting out the middleman, basically. So instead of having to raise chickens to trade for clothes or whatever, you can raise chickens at your job, not have to do that at your home, and then buy whatever you want. And it doesn't matter if someone doesn't want your chickens because you got your labor dollars for your chicken farming activities. So I don't know. I guess you could say I have a pragmatic approach towards currency. I view crypto the same way. Crypto is forced scarcity. It has basically no inherent value at all. It's just lines of code. And not to go too far off on a tangent, but there's a very strong criticism that crypto isn't even really property because we could go way deep into that, but so if you're willing to exchange a Bitcoin for something, but not a US dollar, I think we're grasping at straws at that point. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of the Federal Reserve. I don't like fiat currencies. I'd rather we have something commodity based, but it's not my biggest issue. Not even close. So
is it true that Bitcoin was almost having like a revival recently?
It did. I mean, it is. I haven't been tracking it much. I have my money in other cryptos, but it got back to $20,000.
Dang.
Or very close to it. Very close to it.
Because they basically had like a falling out, right? Like the floor bottomed.
Have you guys talked
So
about the
speak.
Alphabet Boys rating that company?
What company?
Bitcoin is the highest it's ever been. At least it was. Yeah, I know it broke the 20,000 mark at some point, or got really fucking close to it. I don't remember which. I don't have my
So weird.
phone near me.
I wonder what what affects it. Because I feel
Well-
like I heard they were really confident in its efficacy long term, and then all of a sudden it just crashed, and they're like, "Oh, there's no future for Bitcoin. If you had all that money, like it's lost."
I'm not a fan of Bitcoin because Bitcoin is just a giant money exchange. That's all it is. It's a giant US dollar exchange. It's like gambling. You put your money in, you bet how long you want to wait, and you come out. Nobody uses Bitcoin for actual commerce anymore, unless you're on the blackest of black markets, in which case they actually know because they've stopped using it because you can track Bitcoins now. That's the algorithm's been broken. Even if you use Bitcoin scrubbers and if you use, all these other wallet transfer mechanisms to keep Bitcoin as secure as possible, it's an old protocol. It's not secure. It's not fast, but oh yeah, I don't have donations set up. I just do this for fun. So I appreciate it though, Patrick, 100%. But, yeah, so like I was saying, I think that was pretty much my point though. If anybody wants to rebuttal off that, I don't know if I cut off like midway, but yeah, it's old tech. I would highly recommend looking into newer generation cryptocurrencies if you are someone who wants to invest. Again, like I said, there's some very compelling arguments that cryptocurrency isn't even property, but regardless, use it to your own discretion. So I think it's
Yeah,
great.
I'm very
Do you have like
unschooled.
Robinhood or?
Robinhood? No, I don't do stock trading anymore either.
I do that a little bit. Just it's kind of fun. I don't really ball out with it, but it's nice to see, like not nice, but it's interesting to see the fluctuations sort of.
I follow Robinhood.
I know
fails.
some people get addicted to it, but
I have Robinhood fails on Reddit. That's a beautiful thing to watch. Like, yeah, I put in $50,000. I have $6 now.
oh
my God.
fuck
Yeah.
that. It's basically gambling.
Oh yeah, it's bad. But Brian, you were gonna say? Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm very unschooled on cryptocurrencies in general.
Yeah, and I feel like
Same.
I keep saying, oh, they might not be property. I feel like I should at least somewhat explain myself on that. I did a conversation recently on intellectual property, and basically the idea that crypto is a pattern, right? Patterns aren't scarce. Property requires scarcity. This is a very fundamental concept on any sort of definition of private property, right? Private property requires scarcity. Without it, there's no necessity for private property. If there's an infinite number of something, you can just reach into the air and grasp it. It doesn't matter whose it is, right? And that's
like
what
a fiat currency.
that's what a pattern is as well. And all cryptocurrency is a very specific pattern stored on some wherever they're stored. It depends on what exactly it is. But based off of that definition of requiring scarcity, if someone were to copy your cryptocurrencies, your coins, we'll say, and put them into a new wallet, it's not causing you any harm. You're not losing anything. You have no reduction in value to you personally. And all they've done is take your pattern and put it somewhere else, an identical copy of it. And that's where the fundamental argument that cryptocurrency might not, you can call it yours, that's fine, but it's a really hard case to make that, like, if someone copies it, or if someone, maybe if they transfer it or take it from your wallet, you might have a claim there. But really, once you start getting into the whole, like, it's like a song, right? By the same definition, songs aren't property. You can't just say, like, oh, I strummed the guitar like this, that's mine now. Like, that's so nebulous.
You can't claim a chord progression.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like half of the hits through history are the same exact chord progression.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the videos of, like,
that's exactly what I'm referencing, I think.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're gonna say, but I think I know what you're gonna say.
Well, it's like it was like the past 5 years top country song.
Oh, that too, but
and it was literally like they could line it up, and it was
Yeah.
like the same exact chords and notes being hit, just slightly different.
yeah. There was something about like the last hits through like literally the last 60 years, like from the Beatles to Elvis to fucking Miley Cyrus. Like you could look at the same 4-chord progression, and apparently there's something that our brains just are like, that's that shit. Like, that's fucking nice.
Yeah.
That shit works.
And honestly,
Sorry, another tangent there, but
well, I guess a counter argument to, like, intellectual property having value and should be protected is, like, comedians guarding each other's jokes. Like Joe Rogan getting on stage and calling out what's his name? Fuck. Spanish guy.
Iglesias?
Yeah,
Or,
Gabriel Iglesias. Yeah. No, not Gabriel Iglesias.
No,
it was
Garcia.
Garcia, yeah.
Yeah, Jerry Garcia.
No, not Jerry
No,
Garcia.
that's the guy from fucking. I'm sorry.
You guys will get it one of these days. George Lopez. I don't know. I'm thinking of another comedian.
I know. Who
Carlos Mencia.
Carlos Mencia.
Yeah, drunk brain got it out.
But not the dude from fucking Grateful Dead, no.
Yeah. But yeah, Carlos Mencia being called out for joke stealing, like, the comedy community basically annexed him. I mean, he's still making money off his act. But
well, so, man, I just want to address this comment real quick. Patrick said, I don't think he's getting our comments. Sorry, I thought I answered your comment earlier. But Tim has to go. It was great having you here. I know we're kind of wrapping up now anyways, but I'm sorry I didn't get your comment sooner. I just wanted to let him finish his thought. But yeah, so like I was saying, I think it's really important to keep in mind that there was a correction in that moment, right? Like, the jokes were stolen. It's not like you can go back and unsteal the jokes, right? Like, I guess he could sue nowadays, right? Like, let's say you stole my jokes, right? Yeah. But the stealing of the jokes and making that public was super bad, right? Like, that
makes you the pariah to begin with. Like,
yeah. And so Joe Rogan getting out there and being like, hey, this motherfucker steals jokes right there is in its way its own correction, right? So what do you want to do? Do you want to?
That's the free market of stand-up comedy, self-correcting.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna get ostracized if you do shit like that. The same way if you steal someone's fucking patent without being able to do it.
Yeah, or really anything like that, right? Like, I mean, like, so let's say some like little kid gets on YouTube and does, I don't know, pick Mariah Carey Christmas song, whatever that name of that song is that I can't remember right now, and they sing it on YouTube. Yeah, that one. I'll stop you there. That one.
You've heard the rest, okay?
Yeah, I've got it. But yeah, that song, if some little kid sings it, they're going to get a copyright strike. If they're monetized, all of their funds are going to go to the other person. And again, I find it very difficult to say that, oh, well, someone sat down and wrote this. And it's like, well, if I wanted to listen to the Mariah Carey version, I would have gone and listened to the fucking Mariah Carey version of the goddamn song. I wouldn't have looked up Toddler sings Mariah Carey All I Want for Christmas,
Very untapped market, Mariah Carey covers. There you go.
Exactly. Well, not exactly a huge market, but
then it's kind of the weird juxtaposition of YouTubers who have reaction content,
Oh,
where
God.
it's like
I
directly
don't
using someone
understand
else's content.
the appeal of that is weird, but like like everything from the thumbnails to the algorithms that YouTube has like are just designed to get more clicks, you know.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, so if you want to look at it from the perspective of modern law, it's fair use because they're applying commentary, and commentary is just anything that adds any sort of substance to the original work. You can contest it and take it to court, but yeah, it's
All I want
You
for
know.
Christmas is you. Thank you, Caleb.
yeah. Didn't I say that earlier? Or okay, well,
You
regardless.
just said that song.
Well, I thought I corrected myself when I said it again, but it's fine. Yeah, you're right, Caleb. All I want for Christmas is you.
Basically why she's raking in the big bucks to this
Yeah.
day.
Yeah,
Pretty
every
much,
fucking
man.
shopping mall blasting that song.
I love how it's become a meme at this point. But yeah, it's IP is one of those things where it comes down to the fundamentals of it, right? Like, so someone who is in, well, I say I'm in software. I'm a student, right? But as someone whose like job is eventually going to be writing lines of code, like it was a really hard pill for me to swallow. The like, this is literally just patterns of ones and zeros that have zero scarcity, right? Like if I come up with something and I write out the code and I do all the work and then I publish it or whatever, and someone copies that, copying of it is not a so it comes into property rights exist to protect your personage because a property is an extension of your personage, and that I know is a claim into itself, and we can get into that if you want. But property being an extension of your personage, all property rights come from the perspective of protecting your personage. Like this fork is mine. There's no other fork like this. There are plenty of forks like this fork, but there are none of them in the immediate
But this
area.
one is mine.
Yeah, this fork is mine.
Without
right?
this fork, I am nothing. Without me, the fork is nothing.
If you take this fork from me, I have lost 1 penny of material value. It's something you can quantify, right? Like you can say like, yeah, man, that sucks. You lost a penny's worth of fork, you know? But if someone copies your hard drive and pastes it somewhere else, all you can say is, well, I lost potential value. But what is potential, right? Like, what is that? That's not like, it's not a thing.
Doesn't that fall into intellectual property rights though? Like,
That's what I'm getting at, though. That's what we're talking about
right.
here. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's almost impossible to quantitate.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
all that we can do is based objectively off of what we have now in existence. And I think that's where most of the compelling arguments that I've found against property or intellectual property rights come from. Why? And why I think the term intellectual property isn't good, because I don't think it qualifies as property because it lacks scarcity. Just call it ideas. That's what they are. Protected ideas. Because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what all intellectual property is. Star Wars, Apple software, whatever. It's all just
hell, even fucking Star Wars is a reiteration of like ancient tropes that have been carried over across cultures for millennia. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I'm
you
saying?
could argue George Lucas stole it from
like
From,
that's the thing. Like, you can't claim like the hero narrative as like that's mine. Like that is there's all sorts of nuances. Like there's tropes, there's fucking themes that you can carry over into different genres, but then there's very literal things like, oh, Disney owns Star Wars. Like, that's a whole nother legalistic world to dive into.
Yeah, I don't even get me started on Disney. They have completely like, if there was anything good about the IP as it existed at one point, it's gone now because of them. Like, there's literally a Mickey Mouse clause. Like, it exists to protect their IP. I mean, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. I know it's like midnight where you are, so if you're ready to wrap up, I'm as good as any time. I feel like we had a great little.
I'm having a good talk. Yeah, if you want to keep spitballing, I'm down. But yeah, whenever you want to wrap it up.
No, I mean I'm good. I just wanted to make sure because I know it's late there, but I think I'm gonna have to take a little a little commentator's pee break now because I've killed like 2 of
No
these
worries.
things. So you guys have to carry
All
the
right.
show. Don't
Okay,
don't say anything that's gonna get me banned. And it's backwards. You're not gonna be able to read it.
Way too late for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me read 2 comments from Caleb and then I'll go. Hold on. Oh crap. Oh, one of them is I don't tune in often, but when I do, it's fun seeing what one of my comments does to Christian. And that's my first name, by the way, in case you didn't know that. And his other comment says, I have the original trilogy and the prequels on DVD, and that's all I need. I have them on Laserdisc, you scrub. Talk about Star Wars, I guess.
Hey, what
Yeah.
you gotta really do is mooch off someone's Disney Plus account.
Yeah. Honestly, did you watch the final episode of Mandalorian?
I did. I don't know if you want to
Dude.
spoil shit for Caleb, but
No,
It's
yeah.
fucking epic.
I guess I would say to Caleb because seems you're a purist on the original trilogy and the prequels.
if you haven't seen Mandalorian, highly recommend watching it.
Yeah, I would say that the newest films from Disney, probably besides Rogue One, I think Rogue One's really solid. But
Yeah.
I'd say the rest, you will live a happy life not seeing them.
Solo
don't
was
think that-
pretty good, but like
Solo-
you don't need to see it. But it's like
Yeah.
it's entertaining and it's worth a watch, you know. Like,
Yeah,
if you like the Star Wars lore.
yeah, and I
Some
think
stuff is good.
Mandalorian adds a good story to the universe. I don't like the Disney
Yeah.
ones. Mandalorian isn't bad.
Mandalorian tied everything together really, really.
Still haven't watched it.
Oh, and did
It's
you hear
good, dude.
Did you hear about what they're announcing though? Like
Yeah, the
there's
Boba Fett's gonna have
there's
his
gonna
own.
be the Book of Boba gonna be a show. They're gonna have a Obi-Wan Kenobi show with Hayden Christensen playing Darth Vader, which
Ewan
nothing
McGregor
go either
playing.
way. Yeah, as
Yeah.
long as we got hello there. We'll be good.
Hello there,
And that's all it took.
Obi Jesus.
That's all it fucking took for them to completely fucking ruin the good thing that they had. One successful show. So Derek, I don't know if yeah, I guess. Derek, I don't know if maybe you have. I don't want to assume. But Caleb asks, what libertarian/Austrian authors have you guys read? I know, well, Brian, you're reading In the Fed, which is Ron Paul.
Yeah.
It's like Babby's first libertarian book. But I've read pretty much everything Spooner's ever written. He's probably my favorite anarchist libertarian. He's abolitionist. Great guy. If you haven't read everything by him, you should. He's a super smart dude. I've read some Hoppe. He gets a little weird for my tastes. If you haven't read The Most Dangerous Superstition, I really, really like it, but I do think it's a little campy. It's a great first read for a lot of people, but I'm assuming you've read it already, Caleb. So I just want to answer his question. Sorry.
No worries. By Austrian, I mean Austrian economics.
Yeah. I figured.
Austrian.
not-
I'm trying to think of like a famous like Austrian economist, and I feel like there's a lot of names I should be thinking of.
Yeah, I
Hitler?
mean, well, a lot of them. He was definitely not an economist.
He was an Austrian painter, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Painted the walls with Jewish blood.
Oh God. Okay.
All right.
Listen,
Sorry.
we are
Sorry.
streaming.
Had to go there.
I have to reprimand you because we are streaming, and you cannot say things like that on the stream. You're gonna get me banned.
You're technically not wrong, but like
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
supporting it.
I'm
it's
just
still too
saying.
soon.
I'll
bro.
denounce it. I'll say all his
It'll
paintings were
always
very
be
bad.
too soon. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Wait,
if you-
is Anne Rand? Is she? She's not Austrian. Is she?
She's not really an economist. She's just Austrian.
Yeah, more
Austrian
political
economists.
theorist.
Yeah. Austrian economists are it's just a term for like a school of economic
Yeah,
thought, right?
Yeah, like I should know this because I studied all of this in college, but I'm like forgetting all of it. Like Keynesian economics,
Yeah.
that's not the Austrian school, right? That's
No,
kind of like
It's like the
right?
exact opposite of the Austrian
Yeah,
school.
that's what I thought. That's what
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Hayek, Paul, Rothbard's a great example. Mises
I've read
is another.
some. I've read Hayek. I think Paul. I don't. Maybe Rothbard. I don't know about the other two though.
Paul meaning Ron Paul or a different Paul?
Yeah. If you like Mud Huts, Paul is, or Hoppe is a great dude. He's definitely a return to monkey kind of guy. Yeah, Ayn Rand is more of a philosopher. I've read one book by her, The Virtue of Selfishness. I really, really enjoyed it. I recommend it. Yeah, I mean, I think I have some issues with it gets a new name every decade, it feels like, but we'll call it egoism for the sake of integrity to her ideas. But individualism, if you want to call it that. I have some issues with it, but I think the core tenets of it are very analytical, objective, and good. But I'm not exactly like a Randian or anything. You're not going to sit me around here like thumping my Atlas Shrugged at you or something, you know. I think she makes a lot of compelling arguments though. Like her idea that selfishness is what perpetuates virtue is, I think, a very hard pill for people to swallow, but I think makes a lot of sense if you just look at it from the perspective of like, no one does something for nothing. Like even Mary Magdalene, like, was, you know, she did it because she got some kind of joy out of loving, you know, not because for the sake of being nice, you know. People don't donate to charity for no reason. It makes them feel good. They get a tax break. There's always some kind of personal motivation behind every good, benevolent decision that we make. And that's okay. And I think that's the important thing. People say it, when people hear that, they go, oh man, I don't like thinking that I'm selfish. And it's like, well, it's okay. It's okay to be, as long as you're doing a good thing.
To some degree is self-interested.
Yeah.
I think it's a natural human trait. Yeah.
It's disingenuous to think that you could, it's like something you can avoid, because I think it is a very natural process, and it's okay.
Have you guys heard of John Rawls? I think
Rawls.
His name was. He's I think he was a philosopher from like in the 20th century. And like, and I studied a little bit of them like in political science, and like he had this idea of the veil of ignorance, and it was like whether like if you had to create the ideal society and you had to do it behind a quote unquote veil of ignorance, like so you don't know your preconditions, you don't know your intelligence, your socioeconomic status, your disabilities, or conversely your intellectual capabilities or physical capabilities, how would you structure society? It's like a thought experiment kind of. But I was watching this video like the other day about like a libertarian perspective on that versus like I guess like an outsider's perspective on it. And it was kind of interesting to think about like your perspective on how society should be structured is going to be based off like your own preconditions or those that might affect your family. So
yeah. I mean, I could see like a self-preservation instinct being in there as well. Like,
right.
If I didn't know what my circumstances were going to be born into this world, you know, if I wasn't born into the body of a strong, handsome lad, you know, if I, you know, was like a geriatric crippled or something.
As well endowed, you know.
Yeah, definitely not that. All right. You know, let's just get that clear. I think
it's like an acorn on a beanbag.
Yeah, exactly. It's very generous of you. It's more like a pea on an acorn. But yeah. So regardless of that comment,
yeah, I have to dry my balls every time I pee. So
I think there's definitely like a certain amount of self-preservation that goes into a decision like that. Because I would be like, well, what if I'm born crippled, blind, and completely unable of, you know, supporting myself? Of course, I'm going to want a society that would cater to that, which is why I think, you know, it's difficult
because it's tied to a lot of like the welfare state kind of thing. Like people, they use that in terms of like political philosophy to like explain someone's views, whether they're conservative or liberal. Like, oh, I might favor, you know, a welfare state here, but if I know I'm going to be like well off and I don't need this, I'm not going to want to subsidize someone else's education or someone else's healthcare or someone else's food stamps, et cetera, that kind of thing.
I think that's where the ethics come in, though. I think
Right.
that's why I've
Right.
focused so much on that. Like, I've tried to move away from, like, you know, I enjoy these segments where I just get to talk about my opinions on things. But I do think, like, at the end of the day, like, if I'm going to make a claim and I'm going to sit here and be like, I am right, you are wrong, it has to be based off of some, like, rigorous logic and ethics. And those things I don't think change based off of, like, my particular circumstances. You know, I would like to think, and, you know, this could be wrong, but I would like to think if I had the same logical deduction process, regardless if I was in a worse circumstance than I am now or better, I would reach the same conclusion. You know, I'm not like super well off. I live in a dingy apartment and I pay rent and a little bit else, you know. I can't say I'm doing particularly great for myself, but, you know, I'm not like simping for the rich people. You know, there's like a rationality to the decisions and the
Right.
beliefs that I hold. So that's, you know,
Yeah.
a long way of
And
saying.
I respect that, yeah, because I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes, like in terms of politics, like a lot of times grifters on either end of the political spectrum will, like, they'll throw themselves towards whatever, like, confirms their own biases or gets them more money or both. Like,
Yeah.
like, have you heard of like Dave Rubin, for example? Like,
Yeah.
I think he's a pretty good example of like I genuinely remember listening to like his first show after he quit like the Young Turks and like oh, this is interesting. Like, he's bringing a fresh like classical libertarian perspective to it, but then all of a sudden you find out he's taking money from the Coe brothers, and you've noticed like his rhetoric is shifting more towards like unabashedly pro-Trump, like that kind of thing. But
that was
it's weird to see how
I
people
was
change.
you know, again, this is I'm sorry, Brian, I haven't let you get a word in edgewise, so I will let you go
Oh,
right
good.
after
I
this.
really haven't had anything to add so far. So
I used
Go.
to listen to an obnoxious amount of Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro until I literally couldn't stomach them anymore. And I used to really think that Dave was an actually good show. Like, he asked good questions and he made, like, he took a very neutral stance, I feel like, a lot of times, because he was either scared to say what he wanted to think.
And that was the appeal of it too. Was
Yeah.
like he was like, oh, I'll engage anyone. Like, and that was like the Rogan-esque like type of vibe I was looking for. That I wanted someone who could, you know, who could talk to people with different views. But then it just sort of devolved after that.
Yeah, it's like a switch got flipped. And then it was like oh, well, we kind of like Donald Trump here. And it's like,
Money, money, money.
yeah, it sucks. I mean, I will say less so for Ben Shapiro. I think I just like the more.
I think Ben believes what he believes. Like,
Yeah.
at least.
The more I got my own opinions and the less I listened to other people for their opinions, the less I liked Ben Shapiro. But
that's fair.
yeah.
his voice is honestly what off-puts me. I genuinely can't listen to him. I don't disagree with a lot of his points, but
Like a
See-
gnat hovering.
Caleb, I feel like this is super, super relevant for especially modern Dave. Look, he says, I feel like Dave's whole thing is, look, I'm a gay conservative. Bet you've never met anyone like me. That's super relevant to now. Like, anytime anyone challenges him on being a conservative in any way, he's like, I'm gay. And I'm like, what does that have
Yep.
to do with conservative
Like
politics?
fallback.
Yeah. It's like that hasn't been
Yeah.
an issue for like fucking
It's like,
6 years
it's like
now.
congrats, you defied like a stereotype, but that doesn't mean your fucking arguments are sound. Like,
Exactly.
yeah. I feel like Milo Yiannopoulos had a similar shtick.
yeah,
A lot more trolly, but
exactly. Yeah, I guess Stephen Carter too, as Caleb was saying. It's like an example of, I think, someone who, like, they cater to their crowd and they know the money's there, so they stick with that.
I don't
And,
even,
and, and like even Crowder had like a really interesting idea where he had that show, like, changed my mind. Like, that was a really cool idea, but
It's a
even
very-
that would be like pretty selective about who he'd interview. It's like, oh, I took down some fucking liberal
you know?
college freshman who's an intro to philosophy who knows fucking nothing. Like,
Yeah.
look at me. Like, wow.
Yeah, he picked up like one book on Locke, and that's his entire knowledge of everything you believe, if that.
Exactly.
No, I don't even think Crowder's funny, honestly. And if my dad watches this, it's
he's
gonna
got
break.
diminishing returns, I think.
It's gonna break. It's gonna break his heart because I think he's not as much into it as he used to be. He used to send me clips all the time, and he's like, "Oh, this is hilarious," and I'm like,
He loves
Okay.
cross-dressing too.
"Yeah, okay." So like, I don't have a problem with anything like that. Like that can be funny.
No, I don't either. I'm just saying, like, hey, do your thing, but like,
Yeah.
it's almost like they go out of their way to like grift off the anti-SJW shit, and it's like, yeah, there's a genuine amount of people on the left too that like cringe at that and hate that too, but like both sides sort of just make the problem worse than it needs to be.
That's one thing that I've kind of noticed is that that's not as big of a war as it used to be anymore. Or maybe it's more like a silent war now. Like I think
there's some still very dedicated to it, but it's like it sort of burned itself out, like the energy it had.
Yeah, because
I feel like it exploded. People picked their sides, and now it's like, all right, like we've seen this show before.
I've heard these same arguments and fucking go-to gotchas over and over.